How is weather in India, or especially in your state?
Ah, I'm
And
I did my master's
yeah,
from CUSAT campus.
yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, there will be a lot of CUSATians for sure,
Oh,
because
that's
I
great.
teach. I teach here. So I take cloud. I take wireless. I take agile. So I take a few things for B.Tech as well as M.Tech. So yeah. So I've tried to get as many of my students as possible for this.
Hey,
So
no,
let's hope.
Yeah.
how are you? You're on mute, Anu.
Hi,
There
you
you
can
go.
hear me now, right? Sorry.
Yeah,
It's a new
yeah,
new thing. Yeah, Google Meet. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
yeah, we don't use it. Yeah, but it's nice. It's actually pretty good without any app.
Yeah.
And my main research topic was already from my PhD and master's doing thin film solar cells, which are with novel material perovskite, and there I study the new materials from a chemical approach, synthesizing new films, and now I'm doing this with another kind of material. Yeah, basically finding new interesting materials and also new ways to synthesize them, basically.
Nice. Shruti, you wanna go ahead? Shruti, you are on mute. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, so my name is Shruti, and I did my bachelor's in electronics and telecommunication from India. So it's under CUSAT only. So I did it from Tokaj Institute of Science and Technology. Then I did my master's in electronics from CUSAT, so electronic department in CUSAT. So then after that, I did my PhD from RMIT University. So my PhD is based on machine learning applications of consumer radar. So I guess you all know like big giant radars. I think we have some prototypes in Q. And I'm working on very small, the ones we can fit in our palms. So small consumer radars. Main applications, automotive, hand gesture recognition, yeah, material identification. So these are my major applications. So it was like machine learning applications of radar sensors. So that's when I got interested to machine learning and data science part. So that's I devoted more towards that. Currently I'm working as a data scientist with Telstra. So that's a telecommunication company in Melbourne. So I'm working in their data science team. Yeah. That's about me.
Nice. Shabu, you wanna go ahead? Thank you, Shruti. Shabu,
Okay.
you wanna go
Yep.
ahead?
Yes. So I have
Okay.
done my bachelor's from NIT Jalandhar, National Institute of Technology Jalandhar, and then after I worked in industry for a while, and then I came to Australia to do my PhD from Curtin University, and then after 1 year postdoc in Curtin and almost 3 years postdoc in CSIRO now, my research area has been mainly focused on energy storage and conversion devices, both experimental and modeling, and especially on fuel cells with different kind of fuels. So yeah, that's my area. So in that, like I worked on designing materials also, sometimes on testing, and sometimes on the micro scale micro scale optimization of the systems, those kind of things. Yeah,
I know.
that's about me.
Thank you, Shabu.
Yeah, my name is Gaveshana. So I've started my research journey from Sri Lanka. So my bachelor's and master's I got from Sri Lanka. So my main subject area is chemistry. However, after my bachelor, I started research on solar cells, dye-sensitized solar cells, and specifically preparation of thin films by different techniques. And then once I finished my masters, I got a scholarship at Monash for PhD. I think uh, uh, most of us are like here in the same group, Kalim, Nadia. And, so the same group I joined for the PhD back in 2013. And then so I mainly worked on perovskite type solar cells, but again deposition of different materials like organic, inorganic thin films. After my PhD, I did some work in local industries in Australia, some consultation work and some research R&D work. But back in 2018, I started my postdoc again on perovskite solar cells, but specifically on electrode uh, for the solar cell devices. So mainly I can recognize myself as a material chemist, more specifically thin film preparation.
Nice. And Sebastian? Thank you. I know.
Yes.
Hey guys, my name is Sebastian. So I studied chemistry back in Switzerland and did my PhD also in inorganic chemistry. I worked on dye-sensitized solar cells, like it's a bit similar to Arno, where I did like chemical synthesis of new materials, dyes and electrolytes and that sort of stuff, and also device fabrication. And then I got the fellowship to come here to Australia, to Melbourne, Monash University. So here, yeah, I've been here for a few years now doing my postdoc. And currently I'm mainly working on perovskite solar cells, surface modification, and yeah, electrolyte, charge transport materials. So against device fabrication, but also chemical synthesis and characterization and that sort of stuff.
Narendra, please. Thank you, Sebastian.
Hi. So as I was a batchmate in bachelor's with Shruti in Tokaj Institute for bachelor's in electronics and communication. So I did my project on robotics during my bachelor's. Then felt like going to nanoelectronics because it was more boom at that moment. So went to nanotechnology, and there I started finding more about solar cells. So that time it was dye-sensitized solar cells, and then felt it's more interested on that field, and then tried to apply for PhD here in Australia. So got in Monash. I joined in 2015, and after finishing my PhD, now I'm trying to find some new materials for the solar cell applications. Yeah, so as a research fellow, that's it.
Yeah, nice. All right, it's my turn now. So my name is Kaleem. I did masters in chemistry from Pakistan, and then MPhil. We have MPhil degree after masters. MPhil in organic chemistry, where we study 1 year is coursework and then 1 year is research work. So I did MPhil and did some synthesis for some medicinal chemistry. And there was some hidden tones for some medicinal usage. And then I was trying to get a scholarship, was applying, got some places, options in Germany, and then Australia. Then I decided, okay, let's go to Australia. Came here, and when I joined here, initially I joined in a project that was biosensors. But within 5 to 6 months, I realized that this is maybe something that I really am not enjoying. Changed my topic in chemistry, came to dye-sensitized solar cells, like most of people here. And there I was working on some charge transport materials in dye-sensitized solar cells, did some bit of synthesis, organic, inorganic devices. And then after PhD, got postdoc position in the same group, worked for 2 years, then left Australia back to Pakistan, did 1 year assistant professorship there, but then realized that, okay, I want to go back to Australia, came back here, joined the same group in pretty much similar topic, but then soon I got a position in CSIRO, which is a national agency, science agency, where I also came across Shambhu. We had a good time in CSIRO. Worked there 2 years on some photovoltaic applications in water splitting. And then after 2 years, came back again to Monash. So Monash has been, my always fallback option. They've been open for me. I had a crazy idea of a patent that was hanging around, and I thought, okay, let's finish it and then find something else. So that's my story.
Okay, great. So nice to get to know each one of you. Would you like, how do you want this to go? Like, there are some sample questions, and then we can, have the live questions. Do you want to start?
Yeah, you start with questions, and then
Okay.
I think, yeah, we go more. Okay. If the questions are mostly with the education and then leading to, I think Narendra people more, and Shambhu, they know that structure, basic structure in India, and then how to move forward.
Okay.
then we can go there. We can just
Okay.
start.
So I'll
Session
just
there.
keep asking what all
Yeah.
was there already,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
the students who are here, they can ask live questions. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll go there. Okay. Just a second. The first question: I'm in final year BTech, but don't have any in-hand experience related to research. Will I be able to catch up with others who have been preparing for a career in research all along?
Narendra?
Yeah, so I was in the same position maybe a few years ago, so I can tell about this. So I did the same BTech in electronics, and at the moment I was not sure I will pursue my career in research, but just that I like to learn more about chemistry or material science, even when I was doing electronics. Uh, I mean, if you ask me, I don't know much about what I learned in electronics during that time. If you ask any basic things, but I can still tell some plus two chemistry stuff. So that was my interest. Then I felt like, okay, why don't I try something in between? Something like so. When I joined for masters in nanotechnology, so there I had option to do research as well as I was working on some electronic related applications. So there it was photovoltaics. People were working on batteries as well. So it took me time because the people already there were from bachelors in chemistry or bachelors in material science. So they were clearly into that at the moment. It took me some time to get to understand basic things and get to that point. But after that, when I finally found that, okay, this is the photovoltaics or solar cells is interesting for me, I started learning more about that. And then I mean, I was able to catch up with the colleagues in terms of, I won't say in terms of the basic material science or chemistry, but in terms of the photovoltaics, whatever research I was doing, I was, I got up to the same level. I felt like that. So then I tried for PhD. So the moral is like, you can all get to that point, like even if you are coming from different field or anything, but just that if you have interest and if you develop interest on some particular field, then you can easily get to that. You might have to read, and you might have to learn from other people and uh, ask seniors or whoever colleagues you have, and with the supervisors you have to discuss, and you have to find a place where you can understand more things and you can excel yourself. So yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Next one. Do we need vast knowledge or interest to learn for research?
Who want to take that? Shruti?
Yes, so for me, vast knowledge, no, you don't need to have vast knowledge, but interest, you need to have 110%. Because yeah, like research is an area, like in my opinion, it's an area where, when you're doing your bachelor's or master's, you have a syllabus, you have like a curriculum, you have assignments. So all these things are there. So even if you're not interested, even if you're not motivated, you're forced to do it. You have to, like, if you want to pass the course, then you have to do it. But research in itself it doesn't have a particular curriculum or any kind of reference. It's only the mere interest and desire that keeps you going. So if you don't have an interest, then I would say it's not, research is not a place for you. But knowledge, it's not a problem at all. It's like if you have desire, you will learn. It's there are like the infinite number of resources we have now. So like to gain knowledge, and it's all about it, it's not like you're going to do your research in 3 months or 4 months. It's not like that. You have like in India, I think it's 4 to 7 years, right? So you have like enough time. It's like you don't have to go and mug up things, anything like that. It's like slowly you can gain knowledge. It is a very difficult, I'm not discouraging or anything, but it's like at first, like for me, it was my personal experience. When I started research, I was quite good in my academics. Like up to my master's. But when I started my research, I was like, first of all, it's in a new place in Australia. Things are a little bit different. Language, culture, everything is a little bit different. Other than that, you always have this self doubt. Oh, will I be able to do it? Things like that. So you'll always have that, but the desire and patience will finally will make reach you places. But you should have interest, but knowledge, that's not an important thing. You can colleagues will help you, and then you read, you have enough time. I think the first year itself is like reading and all, so you have enough time to get knowledge. But I'd say you should have interest and desire. That's
Thank
what
you.
I
Thank
think.
you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Does an undergraduate student have any opportunity to work with research scholars?
Sebastian?
Sorry, yeah. So I guess at Monash, at least, we always have like some undergraduate students, so fourth year students that come and work with us in the lab for like a few weeks or a few months. And yeah, then you basically work with one of the PhDs or postdocs directly together. You get like your own little project, and but you will get guided through it. And then depending on what you already know, what to do in the lab, like you get more or less help. So it's, yeah, definitely you get the chance to do that.
But
Thank you.
Shambhu, would you shed more light on that in terms of Indian scenario, the classes there?
So like in India scenario, like we already have a research project in all the Indian universities. In final year of engineering, we do a research project, right? 6 months, one semester, one unit we have complete. So that's the time you get experience to work on that thing. But I think the main point I would like to mention here is like uh, when people come from India, or especially in that part of the world, in our education system, we do a research project, but in the whole 4 years, the assignments we do and the things we do, we don't use the research methodology basically when we try to solve the problems. That's the main challenge we, like most of the students or colleagues I have with me, they face when they come in first year. Like they don't know what's the methodology, how to tackle a problem that is unknown. We don't have any knowledge in that particular area. We know basic fundamentals from our engineering or our bachelors, but we don't know those things. So that's the main thing needs to be addressed. But for this question, like do they get opportunities? Yes, in India also they get opportunities. In every university they have PhDs and postdocs. They can work with them for their final year project. With professors they can work. So yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Next question. What is the minimum wage while doing research?
Want to take that? I know.
I can say.
Okay.
I can also say
Yeah,
something in
yeah,
this.
go on.
I think it's just peanuts. It looks like I will say it's peanuts. Let me say that. Some of them might not agree with this me on me. So it's called PhD scholar, right? So in like if you take an old time thing, like you are studying, if somebody is paying you to study, it's a very good thing. But now I think the things has changed. PhD is more becoming like a degree rather than a just like a proper dedicated research. It's moving to that zone, I will say. And now it's becoming more like your work. The people in the industry, they counting your PhD as a work experience also. So if you are just going for, like you convert that money, multiply by 50, or if you're coming from Pakistan, you multiply by 70, 80, like you go to any foreign country, you'll get that much money. So whatever money you will get, you will spend here only. That's you will barely survive. So more than barely survive actually. So it's nothing. And for Australia, it's currently I think 28,000 right now. But while I was doing it, was around 22,000 a year, Australian dollar a year. Now it's around 28,000. Yeah. So,
Okay.
Shambhu is in a more appropriate place to say, because he's moving to a very, very big salary job.
yeah.
Okay. Next question.
Yeah.
how should be a research paper? What are the major topics in it? How does it differ from a normal project report? So it's all one question.
I know.
Oh, tough question actually. Yeah, so a research paper is something, not, it's not basically for purpose that to show you a academic uh, qualification or anything like. It's not something going to a thesis. This is something you really found, and it is going to be contribution to the literature, like so far, like people have found something so far on some discipline, and you are adding something to it to advance it further. So in that manner, a research paper has more weight, or it's going through more review process, rather than academic report or thesis. So I think that's the difference. So the experimental wise, or it should be presented as well in a more advanced manner than thesis.
Because it's a difficult question, maybe Nadia wanna jump in.
Sure. You also need to put your work in context to what was already done. So you also need to have already knowledge on what was done on the topic and put it as well in your research paper, so people know how your findings are novel and exciting in comparison to what was already done and what's special about it. You need to make it basically a story for people to read, to be interested, and maybe to use it as well for their research topics, so they can also advance their research with your knowledge.
Okay. Thank you. What constitutes the job as a researcher?
Sebastian?
Yeah, so I guess usually you discuss with your professor like a research topic. You find like something that you're both interested in and that you think has a big potential, and then you pretty much like sort of write an outline what you need to do. So in my case, for example, it might be a new molecule that we want to put on a surface. So we first have our hypothesis. Maybe we have some calculations, simulations with collaborators, and then you pretty much synthesize your chemical. So you need to order your stuff from the manufacturers like Sigma Aldrich or something. You get the starting materials. You go in the lab, you synthesize it, and then that usually takes a lot of time. So it's a lot of work in the lab, and then you characterize that, you purify it, and that sort of stuff, and then you need to apply it, and then hopefully it works. A lot of the times, I have to admit, it doesn't work what we initially planned, and we need to find the reason why it didn't work. But do we need to modify it that it works? And if all of that worked out well, then in the end you can sort of write it up, try to find prove what you've done, and that what you're finding are legitimate. And then it comes to the previous question, basically, then you need to write it up, and then you need to justify and convince the reviewers that what you found and the way you prove it is actually true.
I'll just jump in a little bit. I came across this question myself when I moved from academia, from a national university to CSIRO. So at least for 1 or 2 months, I was in shock, because when we go to industry, in academia, they always say, "Oh, talk to us only about good things," because they want to, publish good papers, breaking research, things like that. But when we go to industry, they don't want to see that. They want to see negative results more than good results, because, for example, CSRO being so it's pretty much an agency that works on the borderlines of academic and industry. They have industrial projects that very confined and defined, but then they are also taking people from more like an academic sense and academic environment and bringing them into research. So they work very nicely. So I learned a lot, that when you're working, you just don't say, okay, these are good results, but also have your negative results, put them into paper, and also like you should know, you should be able to convey negative results more than what you have good results. So that's a major difference between academic and being researcher into a company, just in very short sense.
Yeah, just I should maybe also add, so it's usually a very collaborative work. So,
Right.
you know, we have, for example, a lot of instruments in our lab, and everyone is sort of in charge of one of them. So if you need them, like you need to talk to your colleagues, and we help each other out. And obviously also have collaborations with other universities and stuff. So a lot of the work also works like that, and then you need to coordinate that sort of stuff as well.
The other thing
Okay.
I would like to add is like, you know, in academic environment, we have more of freedom, what kind of work we do, how to do it. But when you go to R&D organization or industry, there is a predefined work that you have to do. You can't just go and do things by your own. So that's the major difference. Like, you know, if someone is by nature just want to explore things, so that desire will be limited in R&D organization and those kind of places compared to universities. Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you. Another question. How okay? How are jobs after securing a PhD? Uh, I think they are asking about the job scenario after PhD.
Yeah, Shambhu would be ideal person.
I don't know. That's a tough question. Please repeat it once again.
How is the job
Job is
scenario
tricky.
after PhD? After you get your PhD?
So the first thing is it's different for different person. Like what kind of field you are doing a PhD in. That's the first thing comes. If you are a computer and IT person, you will get a job, you know, very easily probably. But if you are a material scientist or something like that, the only option will be R&D organizations and universities. There are very few industries that will hire you, especially in Australia and US. There might be more options. So it will mainly depend on your area, in which area you are doing PhD. Same goes with any of the core engineering branches. That will be true. Just leave the IT and computer science people. These people are earning too much. and like if I talk about my experience, like in material science also, like there can be different kind of things. People are working on solar cells, like in this discussion we have. Um, so if there has been any industry in Australia which is making solar cells, then it would have been like at large scale, it might be there. I don't know. At large scale, then there will be, you know, a lot of opportunities. But if not, then the only options you have is R&D organizations. So like from last 6 years, let's say 4 years, not 6 years now, I think around 7 to 8 years, 3.5 years I did my PhD. Then after around 3 and 4 years, I'm doing as a research as a postdoc or those things. There are only few jobs, I will say, you know, hardly one job a year in the field I'm doing. So very limited options. But as soon as the industry booms, let's say now people are talking about renewable hydrogen and those things, the industry got boom, and now I'm getting a lot job options there. I will say in last 6 months I'm getting like, you know, 6 new jobs in that area. Those 6 jobs I got in last 6 years. So it depends in the area, what area you are working in. Yeah.
And also maybe
All
the
about that.
country, for example, if we talk about chemistry,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Nadia
Yes.
would shed more light. Maybe she in country like Germany, it's totally different scenario. Is it, Nadia?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like in
Yes.
Germany, we have like a really big industry. So finding a job, at least a few years ago, was really easy for a PhD. Right now, we have too many scientists there, so it's not as easy anymore as it was. But definitely, if the industry booms again, it will be more. And as well, for example, biochemistry was also one of the subjects we learned, at least in bachelor, and some went also further in masters. And this is kind of a pharma industry, and this booms, especially right now with COVID going on. Nobody is without a job afterwards. And it's also worldwide, basically, as well in Australia. I heard that it's a lot of jobs offered are in pharma industry right now.
Oh, great, great. Thank you. Another question,
Yeah.
how to select research topic? Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Narendra, you've been coming from, this is first time actually, we know each other from last 6 years, but first time I knew Narendra is coming electronics background. How did you?
I didn't want to mention that because if you ask something, I can't answer that. So
now I
yeah.
will.
Yeah. So yeah, but since you're starting a company, you can note down that as well. Okay. So selecting a research topic, as I previously mentioned as well, it's completely depending on what you actually want to do. If you have, there are certain types, you can say, like some people have their own mission, like they want to do research in this field and they want to do like maybe they want to end up in this career, or completely they have a plan. There are people like they learn on the go. Okay, for me, I'm in the second category. I learned on the go. Like I didn't had a plan to work on photovoltaic. Even I didn't had a plan to do research on first hand. So when selecting the research topic, it was on the go what I learned and what made me what topic made me interesting, and like I was ready to explore more on this topic. So I felt like, okay, why don't we select this topic? And obviously selecting that topic is also a bit tricky. Like some topics may not be so booming, or it won't give you any security afterwards. So either you have to completely go with passion, just like you want to do that, or you have to think about the how much opportunities it may have in the future. So yeah, so even when I did left completely robotics from my BTech, I can see that how much opportunities you have in robotics nowadays. So in the automation, machine learning and all, it's always it's booming. And you can clearly see that on the research, not only the engineering perspective, on the research aspect as well, there are more and more research going on in the machine learning, not only in the electronic perspective. I'm telling in even in our field, in photovoltaics, if we are developing a new material or something, there are machine learning studies which predict this material would be good or bad. So it's a bit tricky. So I don't know if I stayed in that field, whether I would be securing a job now. I cannot say that, but I'm happy I chose photovoltaics, and because I like to do more research on this thing. So selecting topics is based on your interest and what you learn on the go. And obviously you would have someone not only in the career perspective, you would have someone personal mentor in your life. They can guide you personally, like what you would be good, what field would be good, maybe biochemistry or biotechnology, or completely staying in electronics, or going to material science would be good for you. Then you can narrow down the things, and then later on you can discuss with your supervisor on during the masters or bachelors. Then you can get a topic, and obviously you have to read more and more papers to narrow down your topic of research. Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
just add a little on this. Getting mentor is one very important factor in countries like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. Our teachers are so much dedicated, and they always have time for us everywhere. And it's so easy and important to reach out to them and ask them, because at certain stages they know more about us than what we know about ourselves even. So getting along with good mentors, good teachers, and having that connection is very, very important, and it helps you throughout your career.
Yeah, I also can add something. It's really dependent on the person as well. So, and person and the circumstance as well. Like, if you have one opportunity you have to take it. Like you can't dream of the thing that is not there, while there is an opportunity, it's already waiting for you. So in my case also, I in my bachelor's, in my honors research, I did some synthesis organic molecules of liquid crystals. So but the thing is that uh, from our university to come into Australia, I have to have some research papers. Um, in our university, the organic chemistry part is not that strong. So if I were there to do my masters in organic chemistry, I couldn't publish much and show my strengths to Monash supervisor. But if since I did the photovoltaics, I could easily, I'm not easily, but I could publish some, and it's a booming area as well at that time. Uh, so that's what we need to think about. Like if there is an opportunity, you have to take that and show your strength. Then someone around the world will need that talent, that skill, and they will uh, give you another opportunity to pursue that direction. So yeah, that's very hard to conclude that which research you pick. You have to think about the opportunities. You have to think about your desire, and yeah, so many things. Yeah, and sometimes as we think, if you might be lucky as well. You pick you exactly what you want, but it's very rare.
Okay,
Um,
great.
like I would like, yeah, like
Sure, sure. Go ahead.
like when you are going for PhD or choosing research topic, the other thing you should be like getting the opportunity is good thing, but you should be aware about your passion and your interest. And the most important thing, like when the supervisor interviews you, that's the time for you to cross interview the supervisor also. You look at his profile, you can't ask the direct question, but that's the only chance you get to know more about the supervisor and his group, because we see a lot of cases, when students start their PhD 6 months or 1 year, after 2 years they drop out the PhD because they couldn't develop good relations with supervisor, they can't settle in the group. So that's the time they should in indirect way, or if supervisor is very open-minded, maybe direct way to interview them also. So yeah,
That's a very,
careful
very,
about that
very
thing.
good point. Otherwise, you will lose half a year like me.
Yeah,
A year. Mm.
it
Okay,
happens, yes.
okay. Thank you. Another question: how does research differ from a job? What are the pros and cons?
Ah, perfect question for Shruti.
Okay, so research and job. So for me, I'm doing a job, but I'm doing research as well. So it's like different kinds of jobs. There are jobs where you do every day, you do the same thing. If that excites you, that's good. Now there is another thing. If for me, like if I'm doing the same thing over and over again, like obviously, like most of the people get bored. So in research, the job that I'm doing, it is a kind of research. Like every you have a problem, it doesn't have a solution, so it's like doing the research itself. The job itself is like doing the research. So that's one thing. Now when you're in academia doing research, that's different from doing research in industry. So as I think Shambhu was saying, so in academia you have like kind of more freedom of choice on what you want to do or what you want to explore. But when you're in industry, the business just wants profit, so they are more towards like profit oriented. Like it also depends upon the which industry you're working on. Like the research is more towards rather than getting very good results or like very good contributions to the research world, it's more like profit to the business. So that is the research in industry. But in academia, it's more like doing let's say research more towards contributing to the research world. Then big difference is in research academia. Whatever you're doing, you are the owner. Like you can publish it, you publish your work. If you have good writing skill and you like to do research, academia is a good place. But for me, I have very bad writing skill. That's the only one reason that I wanted to go to the industry. In industry, you don't get, like most of the industries, you don't get to publish papers and all. So that's the difference in working in industry and research in academia. Then yeah, so that's, other than that, research is like, as a researcher, it's always, uh, what I see is like my husband, he does a 9 to 5 job. So he goes to work, comes, doesn't talk about research, doesn't talk about his work, anything like that. But for me as a researcher, even when I am working with him or with my son, I have always in back of my head, I have like things going on. So when I'm talking to them, I like, oh, I have an idea. So like that. So job or life as a researcher is different from life of other kind of jobs. So yeah, so that's it. So it's like more, what to say, you are lifetime researcher. Yeah,
That's very
so
nice.
like that. So that's the difference. Yeah, so in industry, if you're like, what I'm saying is, you don't have to be in academia if you want to be a researcher. You can work on industry as well. There are opportunities. And I want to add certain things that I don't know. I don't remember the question exactly. I think it was research opportunities or jobs outside, and like most of you are here with chemistry and that background. Yeah, so it's hard to get that kind of jobs. That's right, in Melbourne or in Australia. But my manager in here in Telstra, he is a PhD. He has PhD in physics. So what I want to tell students is that even if you have done something in some area, there is always a possibility that you can change your route, like the area that you're working on. It's not just the technical knowledge that these companies or industries look for. PhD in itself is like 4 years of experience, your patience, organization skills, communications, all, and the ability to learn new things. All those skills you are learning along with the technical skill that you have. So even if you're working in one area, there is always a possibility, like you can change the stream if you want, if you don't have much experience, like much jobs in your field. But then there is interest also matters. Like if you don't have that interest in that area, then obviously you can't. But there is always a possibility. That's what I wanted to add.
Okay. Okay, we have a few more questions, but let's try and get some live questions. So there's one question which has been asked in the chat box. Is there any standard data sets available that describe the complex permittivity of different types of liquid or solid mixtures?
I want to take the question.
I think that's off the grid question, right, for the program. So I think probably we go to the next question. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
Anybody,
Probably.
guys? Sorry, guys.
I
Anybody
don't
who
know.
wants to ask a question, please unmute yourself. You can ask a question directly. Any questions that you have? You can either put it in chat or you can ask directly. Um,
I saw
Okay.
another question, second question in there. No, that's not the question, right? So it says feedback.
No,
Okay.
there are some more questions, but I thought if there are some live questions, we'll take that also. That's why. Yeah. Yes. Any live questions? You just want answers to your questions otherwise? Okay. Okay, you please
They
jump in,
can
guys.
type in the questions if they don't want to talk. Like they can type in
Yeah,
the questions.
yeah, please do type in your questions. I'll just keep reading out the questions we already got. But if you have any more questions, please feel free to type it in and we'll read them out. or you can unmute yourself as well. So I'll go to the next question while people are still thinking about their questions. Okay, so one thing is, what are the major research areas in robotics and computer vision? What should I select academics for this area of research, or main research firms or agencies? It's robotics and computer vision.
Narendra, Shruti, we are all chemists, guys.
Lucky you guys. uh, so yeah, in the robotics, I cannot say with authenticity, but I think mostly people select. They don't do much research afterwards because there are huge number of opportunities even after doing undergrads or postgrads. They can be like automation engineer or machine learning engineer, or I think even design engineers. So many opportunities are already there. So if you want to do research, you should obviously should have a clear passion about that, because avoiding all these opportunities and going for the research, you should be clear about what you want to do in the field. As I mentioned before, there are still so much opportunities in the research, because in Australia, I don't know much about that other than University of Sydney. They have a separate department for robotics research, and they have their own fellowships available to get in for PhD in University of Sydney. But in terms, if I'm talking about Monash, I'm not quite sure. So there are research going on in robotics, but I don't think that is as strong as the ones in the like if you compare with US or Europe. So and also one other thing is, like, since robotics is a like completely like industry aligned field, there are like if you go to Korea, or there are I'm pretty sure there are companies working with the research teams, like making these robotic automations to practical products and all. So if for example Samsung, Sony, or anywhere, there would be still need for robotic research as well. And at the same time, there are like research opportunities in marine robotics or space robotics, and obviously in other machine learning to find new materials, like I mentioned for in our field. And yeah, I haven't done a research on the topics, but I'm pretty sure there would be specific fellowships available just for the robotics field, not only in Australia but in US and Europe. That's what I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. There's a question: is there any specific time period for research?
Sebastian, you want to take that?
I'm not really sure if I understand the question correctly. So,
like for finishing your, PhD or something. Is there a specific
so how long
time?
it takes? Yeah.
I think
so
that's
I
what.
guess
Yeah.
it depends a bit on the country. So I think in the US, you usually start from a bachelor's, and then you have like 5 to 6 years for a PhD. In Switzerland, usually you have like 3.5 to 4 years. I think that's the same case in Germany as well. At Monash, so in Australia, it's usually 3 to 3.5 years that you do your PhD in. And you start after bachelor, you do an honors years, and then you do your PhD. So it's all around, it's like more or less like 4 years, I would say, in general.
Okay. So you said, sir, after bachelor's you do PhD, so you don't do a master's. Is that what it is?
So yeah, that depends on the country. So in the US, usually you go straight from a bachelor's, but then your PhD takes longer. So there's more like 5 to 6 years. In Switzerland, for example, you have to have a master's degree before you can start a PhD. So then like you have 3 years bachelor's, 1.5 years master's, and then you have 3.5, like 4 years on top of a PhD. So
Okay.
all in all, it's usually the same, but the countries like distinguish a bit, like where you start from.
Okay. Next question. Could you elaborate on the roadmap to become a researcher?
Sudha is here. Sudha, welcome.
Hi.
You want to take that question, Sudha?
Yes, I would like to take this question and also previous question also. I would like to add some more points to the Sebastian. Yeah, whatever Sebastian told was exactly correct, but I would like to add a few more points. Most of the Asian countries takes like approximately 3 to 3.5 years. And especially US, like even if it is PhD also, the first 4 semesters like a kind of semesters. We need to take some classes. First, it's kind of graduation again. After that, the real research will start. So, which means approximately it takes 5 years. Yeah, that's how the PhD duration. Yeah, come to this one. Yeah, what is this question? Yeah,
Could you
roadmap.
elaborate on the roadmap to become a researcher?
Hmm. Yeah, this is a nice question. um, I can say that first of all, we should have a proper idea and exactly what we are going to do. That is the most important thing. So for that, we need to work out. That's how like any researcher can do it. And if you before that, you had to choose the particular field we have to choose it, and then where you want to do exactly. For that, what is the basic things you have to collect all the information, and what are the issues are there in that research field you need to figure out, and then you need to just proceed according to that. That's how that, yeah, we need to step by step we have to proceed.
Okay.
May I add one thing for that? So initially, when you do a bachelor's degree, you might not have like a perfect idea like which direction you should go. Like maybe now, if you are a chemist, let's say for an example like us, we have like many branches in chemistry. Like so, when you do bachelor's, you learn them, but you are not sure which direction it should be. I mean, in that case. I don't know what's the scenario, how to decide that. So again, it's come back to the point like you apply for many places, then you get whatever the opportunity that is available. So yeah, but
It's all about interdisciplinary. Probably the guy might study in the chemistry, the basic chemistry, all those things. When you go to the research, like again, it's a vast subject. It's like advanced things and then fundamental research like organic, inorganic, physical, and so many things like that. So we just need to decide where exactly you want to do research and where you want to find out yourself. Yeah.
Okay. Can degree students submit research papers? How can they do it?
Yeah. Can I take this question, Khalil? Yeah, let me answer.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, please. Sorry.
Yes. PhD, even bachelor's degree guys also, yeah, can write a paper. Yeah, they can publish it. It's up to them. If the guy is having the proper everything, he can submit a paper with their institution affiliation.
Sir, so would they would require some kind of a guide in form of their teacher or something, right? Because it's just bachelors that they're
Exactly.
doing.
Yeah, it's not necessary. Even bachelor's degree also, he should have supervisor. Definitely, he might have some supervisor, and then he will be writing a paper with the university affiliation. And then, if he has any funding agency, he can include all the stuff in the paper, and then he can submit with the university affiliations and the supervisor, like whoever corresponding or something, he can submit it
Submitted. So is there a
to the.
particular platform or through the
Yes,
guide?
this
How does it
depends.
happen?
It depends upon the area that which paper and what kind of research you are doing. We need to
Mhm.
choose the where we need to submit, because every research area has so many journals across, so many journals are there. We need to choose our paper fits into these journals.
Okay.
Okay, depends upon the area we need to choose, and then we need to submit our manuscript to the editorial office. And there is again selection process, like they will shortlist and then they will reject or accept. Then secondary, again they will send for peer reviews. They will send for a couple of reviewers. Based on the reviewer comments, again editor will take a decision. Based on that, again it will get back to us. Whether sometimes they will
Yeah,
ask us to
that's
revise the
for
manuscript, and then revise the manuscript, and then okay, they will accept it. Sometimes they will reject, and then they will give some suggestions. So this is how the
Yes,
process.
Sebastian, you want to add something?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, for especially someone who's like an undergraduate or like early researcher, you would usually get some advice from your supervisor which journals to pick. because they have a lot of experience. They have published a lot of articles already. So they sort of know where is like a good journal where your work fits in and where it's likely to get published.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's all about having mentors and teachers and just going with your teachers and mentors. So there's a strong relationship that goes along to even produce one paper, one small paper. So it's not something happening overnight or over the week. So it's a long process, rigorous process that you need to go through.
Okay. Next question. Expecting some valuable inputs for those interested candidates who wish to start the journey from India to abroad. The steps taken to achieve the position, apart from academics and language proficiency. So I think what they're trying to do is, yeah, when you want to go from
Yeah.
India outside. So how?
Shambhu, one of or actually so many people want to follow you. Shambhu, would you be able to?
Yeah. Yeah, so as I understand, the question is how to go from India to abroad. It's not
Yes.
to research, go for research only. So yeah, they can go for masters or bachelor's, any kind of academic degree they want to go in for. And for most of the degrees nowadays, scholarships are also available. Those are very competitive. Obviously, the easiest path to like it might be the PhD one, because in that case you will have less financial burden and you will be more mature by the time you reach to that stage, so it will be easy for you to adjust in that foreign environment. And language proficiency, I don't think there is a much of challenge for, especially for Indian students. I think um, most of them undergraduate studies are in English only, so still they have to give the exam, IELTS or TOEFL, but it will be it won't be a big challenge for them, because they're most like especially the bachelor programs are most of them are on English only. So yeah.
Okay.
So,
Um,
as I understood the question, like they are asking the steps taken to achieve the position apart from academics and language proficiency. That means that out of the IELTS requirement or degree requirement, what other steps that
Nothing.
you guys
Yes.
have taken to contact the supervisors, these sort of things as well, I think, yeah.
So they can, yeah, if they are PhD, then obviously, as Sudhakar recently mentioned, like you have to find your research area, then they have to write a proposal and send it to different supervisors. And it's a rigorous process. I think it takes for everyone 6 months to 1 year, probably sometimes. You have to contact all the supervisors, those are in your field, your field of interest, send them an email with your proposal and your academic credentials. If someone get someone back to you, and there are various platforms also where they advertise PhD positions, even sometimes master in research position with full scholarship. So those are platforms you can go and apply there. Yeah, but it will take time, definitely, so you need to plan ahead. Yeah.
I would like to add on that. So the steps are like kind of same as Shambhu was mentioning. So, like to narrow it down, so what you can do is you will have something in your mind, right? So, for example, what I've done is electronics. So electronics in radar. So I want to do research in radar. So and I want to do it in Melbourne. So some kind of ideas you might have already, or in Australia. So what you do is search for universities in Australia or in Melbourne. So you'll get a list of universities. Go into their site, and there usually in the websites you have prospective research students. Like there is an option, like almost all universities you'll have. Click on that, then it will show like all the fields that university has. For example, if it is RMIT University, then it shows like areas, or you can select it according to the uh, guides like supervisors, or according to the area. Let's say radar. So I'll search for radar, so I'll get all those supervisors who are working on radar, so I can go into their profile and see if something interests me. So if I, if it is interesting to me, what I do is I personally email them with all the, so these things I like about your research. I like to know more about that. I like to know about the research opportunities. So these are the things, and you have to, this is important that you have to mention what you are doing or you have done. So these are the, things that I have done in this area. So I would like to continue on that. So if you have research purpose, that is very very what to say, weightage. That's a weightage. So these are the research papers. These are the labs that I worked on. These are the projects that I worked on. So if you can just attach a CV with the email, so please do, and tell him if they have any research opportunities. So majority of the supervisors will, reply you if yes or no. Some will not because they are very busy, people. But uh, majority of, guides will reply you. Some will say no, some will say no, but there is opportunities in some areas or something like that. So they, some will say yes. So if yes, and you like the topic, you want to continue, then you can, process with that. You just communicate with your guide, and he can actually, guide you in throughout the other process, like the coming, how to apply in the university, things like that. So yeah, so search for
Yeah,
university.
yeah, sorry, I'll just add a little a trick, which is sometimes if you are really, a pro researcher, and you like one particular area, and there's a lot of competition in that area, and you really want to join a group. The thing is, what you do is you go through the research, what that particular academic or researcher team is doing, and then come up with a plan. Okay, tell them that you can do these things, or I have ideas, and to go in this direction, and this is how my ideas are aligned to propagate that research further. Normally, for example, our boss Udo, he gets 10 to 15 emails in a single day for a PhD position. So try to summarize, come up with one sentence, put that into the subject, and send it to that. Just bombard that with a very amazing idea. But for that, you need to have you need to be a pro researcher. And you need to be passionate, and you need to know what you're talking about. And then if he clicks, he'll get you.
Thank you for the trick. Okay, next question. What are the pros and cons of being in research? Yes, everybody's silent. There are no cons.
Nadia, is Nadia there?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Okay.
I haven't been so much outside of research. Like, I worked maybe in my bachelor's for half a year in industry, just as a side job to earn some money. So I can maybe compare it with that. So of course, you get more salary if you're in industry than staying in research. This is of course a con, but when you do the work you like, at least I would expect you to do something you really are passionate about and like. So you stay up in the morning and just look forward to going to the lab or doing whatever you do during your research. So it's basically like doing something you will do in your free time. So it's not feeling like work most of the times. But of course, there's also, you're not always doing what you like, because some people don't like writing papers. So it's basically a torture to do that. But still, in the end, you see the result and it's makes you happy, at least for me. So it will be a really satisfying way to spend your time and earn money. Like my supervisor once explained to me when I said I want to go to industry after my PhD, he talked to me like, but consider it like this. You're an artist. You're doing some art with your research and you're earning money for it. So it's not like we're not earning enough. we do. So that's why I actually decided to continue doing a postdoc, because I can be creative, and this is something I really like to do. Yeah, I can't think of more because this is a winning argument for me. But of course, the con side is maybe that it's more chaotic. So, for example, my husband likes to have everything in order, and research is not really much in order. It's more chaotic kind of thing, like universities, like compared to industry really plans. You have to do topic and it has to be done by this time and so on. Of course, we do have also deadlines and timelines, but it's more like a creative, chaotic process. Like you find something and you just lay everything else down because this something is really nice and interesting, and you just put all your effort into it. So it changes daily actually what you are going to do. So you can't say in 1 week time I will be doing this, because no matter what's going on, it might change.
Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you for that. Since most of us are undergrads, what all are the things we must be aware of during these 3 years so that it will be easier for us to take up research afterwards? And also, how can we make sure that a certain field will be apt for us?
I can give the first part of this question. So I think for students in initial years, the responsibility lies with their teachers, I think, more than the students. So as I mentioned earlier in this discussion, we need to include research methodologies in our teaching. That's the biggest gap we have. That's the biggest challenge students face when they start their PhD. That's the first most thing that need to be addressed. The other thing is like how to prepare, like in your assignments. So teachers need to design the assignments in a way which involve research problems when they give to those students. So that's how they develop that method and how to solve those problems. And they should take very seriously the final year research project. What happens in engineering institutes, mostly in India, after third year we finish, we start going for placements, and that's the time nobody cares about seventh and eighth semester. The units are also like that. No, not students don't pay attention to those. So maybe to look for that particular 6 months, can they move it before that if it's possible, or it should be like students should be serious about that particular project. That will give them the skills they need for research. So yeah, that's the most important part. Yeah.
Okay. And how can we make...
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Sebastian, for the second part.
How can we make sure that a certain field will be apt for us?
I think it's always very difficult to like prepare for something like that, because usually the research fields change very quickly. So for example, most of us here, we work in perovskite solar cells, and a bit over 10 years ago, that field didn't even exist. And now it's probably one of the biggest research fields in materials chemistry. So it's very difficult to predict that. And I think that's why it's really important that you find a topic that you're really passionate about, because then you make yourself a bit independent of that. Because if you're really passionate about something, you will get opportunities for that. And I think that's something that a lot of us today here like mentioned. And in general, so if you go to a PhD, most of the PhD supervisors are not going to come there and make sure that you do your stuff all the time. You need to have the drive yourself. So that's why I would not suggest that you like sort of plan for a field that is going to be hot by the time that you finish your undergrad. It's really difficult to predict that. Even for senior professors, they don't really know what's going to happen, right? So obviously everyone wants to know what's the next big thing, and then be at the front line there, but that's really difficult to predict. So yeah, it's more like try to find something you're really passionate about and work on that. And if you're in your undergrad and you have any opportunity to do any experimental work, take that opportunity. It's great if you already have some experience, you have some contacts, and then you can jump in.
Okay. One last question, I think it is. What are the chances of success into a funded project if we applied? Any specific criteria they're looking for from the proposed candidature?
Shruti, you want to take that?
Well, I'm not too sure about that because I have not worked on any funded projects. So I'm not too sure how
Hmm.
we can, I think maybe like in the, as I said, in the websites, under the, supervisor's profile, they usually have these, like, they are doing these funded projects. And also maybe you can work on like what topics that, that project is on. um, and then you can apply for that. And another chance is, even if you're not working on a funded project, you start your PhD, and then you see like, oh, there is one, nice funded project coming on, and you want to work on that. I think you can switch to that as well. But yeah, other than that, I'm not too sure about funded projects because
Sometimes
Um,
it really sorry, you want to go
uh,
ahead?
yeah, sorry. I think
Yeah.
what they meant about the PhD, right? So normally when if your supervisor is taking you up for a PhD, it is normally a funded project, right? So it is funded for you the tuition fees and the living stipend. Other than that, the student, yeah, doesn't have that kind of a financial burden to think about the project fund. So if you pick the supervisor and supervisor agree to take you up, that means the funding is available.
Okay.
Hmm.
I think that she meant is like industry funded projects, right? Like
Hmm.
some projects
Uh,
which is funded by some industries, like we work for them.
okay.
Geetu, could you just clarify, please, your question? Thank you.
Yeah, in the meantime, I would just say sometimes if it is industry funded project, they are very, very particular about choose to how, who to choose. So they look in very detail about what the person has achieved in terms of the research papers, or his interests within his field. So sometimes they are both industry and academia. Yeah, so industry are really, really they're very particular, but in academia normally they are very open. So they can take you if you are in around the periphery. But for the industry, they are very particular. And sometimes it depends on the luck as well. For example, these times in Australia, no one is coming from outside, so the periphery is pretty wide these days. So they're just so if you apply, the chances are very high. So it's pretty strategic as well. So that you want to take that because you've been all over the world.
You're muted.
So that you are mute.
Yeah, I think Kalim gave the best answer, I think. So nothing is there to add points. Yeah. I think that's okay. Like whatever he mentioned, that is a perfectly all right. And in addition to that, in terms of industry, and then yes, like of course, suppose I think most of the students will, I think, planning to do like masters or PhD. Most of the guys, like if somebody replies, definitely there will be a funding. If there is no funding, if somebody replied with there is no funding, please do not join. It will be burden for you guys. So that is the one thing. Even that industry also, like what happens, like some industries will give some project, some funding to the university. So obviously that professor will be taking you guys under the industry project. So obviously you will be getting a salary, and then the professor or industry will be sponsored you. That way it will be okay, beneficial to the students. Yeah.
I
I
just
can
wanted to
maybe,
add. Yeah, sorry, Seb, you can go ahead.
yeah, I can maybe add like a little story here. So usually I would say in general, it's the professor or like the industry partner needs to be convinced of you that you're really like passionate about that. So for example, we had a PhD student who started his PhD in a different group, and then he approached our professor and said he wanted to join into our group. And then my boss, he basically told me, can you interview him and see what this is all about? You know, is he serious about that? Does he really want to do that? And then we had some interviews with him, and then in the end, we thought, yeah, he's a good candidate. He really wants to do that. And that really came down to like him really being interested in the field. He did like a bit of like background reading, so he already sort of knew what to do. We told him a bit about the project, what it would involve, and he clearly like showed that he has interest in that. And then he was sort of like on probation for like I think a month or two, and he had like the chance to do some work in the lab, and he really like did like put in the work. He was very interested. He learned very quickly, and after that, then we decided to like all apply together for the funding, the next round of funding. And yeah, I think it basically came down to like of his interest. Like he really could show us, convince us that he's like passionate about that. Because the biggest fear of any professor, I guess, is that he will hire a PhD student after, you know, you're always going to run into problems. And if the student just runs away after the first problem, then that's like the worst case scenario for a professor, right? Because he had to choose between, I don't know, 100 people or something, and then he chose one person, and the chances is basically missed. And then after 6 months or so, he needs to start over again, and the funding for 6 months is gone. So it's the same thing for industry, obviously. If they hire someone, the biggest fear is that they hire someone who won't like perform, who won't fit into the team. So yeah, basically you need to, if you emphasize with the person that will interview you, then you can sort of like imagine like what kind of stuff they really want to do. And it's both ways. It's also for your good, right? If they hopefully they choose you because you actually fit in. If they just choose you and then you don't like it after a few months, then it's also not in your interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just adding to that, so normally when you apply for PhD, as mentioned by Shruti before, you would be going through the profile and you will be checking how good is the projects the professor has done. And sometimes some universities you can clearly see the funded projects the supervisor has on specific fields. So maybe you are interested on that field, then there is more chance to secure that funding. And other thing is like most of the universities has this tuition fee and scholarship separately, like so it doesn't so sometimes the funding is only for covering up to tuition fee, that won't cover your living expenses. So you have to talk about it with the supervisor. And so here in Australia, most of the universities would be having 2 rounds, scholarship rounds in a year, sometimes 3 as well. So for Monash, it is like two rounds. You can, I think, one in February and other in October. There will be funding the scholarship rounds. That would be sometimes that funding would be covering your tuition fee and your living expense as well. So if your supervisor is not ready to, he really wants to take you, but he doesn't have a funding to support you in terms of your living expense and all, he normally would suggest you to apply for this scholarship or this particular Monash funding. For that, normally as an university perspective, they look for obviously as the professor recommendation. First you have to convince with your research proposal to the professor, that would matter. But on top of that, your your qualifications and how well you did during your undergrads and masters, that would also definitely decide the university perspective. Universities look for the number of papers as well sometimes, and as Kalim already mentioned, the peripheral is bit bigger now, so you have much more opportunity. But still, normally they look for all these things when the scholarship is offered for the particular student, because they have limited number of scholarship per year. So you have to go through those process to get those secure your funding. Yeah.
Okay. We have a last few more questions. Which have the higher chance to get into approaching a research group that already have the topic, or approaching with our own idea on research?
I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. I have to leave.
Yeah,
I have something at 4 o'clock.
yeah.
So I'll see you guys
Thank you.
later.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much for being
No,
there.
it's fine.
So just these
Thank
last
you
two
so much.
questions,
Yeah,
and you can all go. Thank you for your patience.
yeah,
Thank you so
that's
much.
it.
No
Okay.
worries.
Thank you.
Who wanna take that? Anu, you wanna start?
That I think both ways are okay. Like if you have a brilliant idea, then if the supervisor is willing to do that, although if it is not his interest, sometimes that might also work. But mostly if your ideas and the group's ideas or group's research matches, that is more convenient because they are already established in that. Um, but if you have some great ideas, it's I mean, it's also okay to approach like with your ideas, whatever you have, but it should be at least somewhat related to the academic group's interest. So something like you can't talk about some medicinal research with a solar cell person, something like that. But if you have uh, some material synthesis or somewhat that can join the group's interests or match in that area, then you have a chance to get in there.
I would just quickly add into in the second part, the road can be extremely bumpy. You might suffer a lot. You need to be ready for that. If that is the only choice, then just be ready. It can be very, very challenging. Ideal situation is because you want to go into PhD, you want to do a degree, go into the group which is actually which suits your idea, your research profile. That's the best way. But going into a group with a totally different idea, they might accept you because they don't care sometimes. It's your life, it's your time, it's your opportunity, and don't destroy it. Go in appropriate place, in short.
Thank you for that. The last question: what are the procedures for submitting a research paper?
Yeah, talk to your boss, talk to your teacher. They are your mentors. Go along with them, work with them, and then submit a research paper. It's not something that is gonna come through easily. It's a bit of work, and you will be rewarded. You will be rewarded. That if you will work with them, you will be rewarded. You can't do this alone.
Okay. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you so very much. I mean, you stayed beyond the hour to answer patiently all the questions.
Nice.
So thank you so
Awesome.
much. I'm
No
sure
worries.
all the students who have been here.
Happy to see still some people left. Yeah.
Is a very, let's say, elite class, let's call it that. So it's elite as compared to industry, is my opinion. So I really thank the students and thank the panelists for being here, for actually sharing your knowledge, because I'm sure all of them who have been here, who have asked these questions or even the other questions, because what I think is what happened is after the questions got answered, some of them just left so immediately after the questions were answered. So anyway, so thank you so much for actually
No
taking your
worries.
time for this. So
Mm.
thank you so much. Thanks a
No
lot.
worries. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend.
Everyone.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.